Hi, I'm Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot, and we are here with Richard Allen Miller. He's a physicist and an explorer of consciousness and probably a master magician. Magus is what they call him. And
oh no! Oh no! I just hate it when you do that.
And I'm going to say that it probably in some ways you're kind of like the original Doctor Who. And,
well, that's English. More like Doctor
English.
Strange.
You're Dr. Strange. And you're probably also maybe the Aleister Crowley of this time.
No, I'm going to be part of a group of magicians that will try to show how, at this moment in time, changing lifestyles can be, you can use systems like magic. Magic's a higher form of physics. It's breaker 17. Come on, can you imagine that in the 1800s? They wouldn't get it. Actually, in case we'll tangent here a minute, I personally think that we were visited in the 1850s, probably around the Carrington period, and there are now two societies that exist. That one has space travel and one that does not. I have seen top secret documents when I worked at Boeing indicating that we were off to Mars before we even thought about the moon. Moon didn't have any cheese. There was nothing there for us. Maybe there's secret base or something. I don't know about that part.
Right.
I don't. But what I do know is it's a gravity well, and if you're going to do anything in space, satellites, system defense, whatever, you do it from L5 positions, not on the moon. And that moon costs money. There's nothing there to work with. Mars has water. In fact, I'm going to put it on my website. It's just a little visual so everybody gets it. Earth and the moon, and right in the middle they had a little dot, and that's the amount of water that's on the Earth. And then, because of the recent landings, we now know how much water literally is on Mars, and they put that little dot there next to our dot, it's bigger. Mars is much smaller. It's a water planet. And
all right.
And here we are. How many centuries and we've been thinking
No, but correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Mars a water planet?
Well, that's mythology and the asteroid belt and the blah blah blah.
You don't believe that? You don't believe that it ended up to be sort of almost a nuclear winter on Mars, the surface of Mars?
I don't know. I hadn't talked to any of my past lives there on that one, but I think there is a thing going on here that has nothing to do with Mars, because in fact the studies I did with military, I saw planet Uranus. This came out of cosmobiology. It was a Yugoslavian project, and I did a 360 at Boeing to try to capture, reproduce their data to see if it was configured right, that kind of thing. And when the planet Uranus, this was the Department of Interior, Menlo Park, grant that gave to me, that when Uranus was in a certain position with the Earth and the Sun, there was a 3 sigma error coefficient of earthquakes. So then I had to ask, well, what does the storms on Jupiter mean? What does that mean? It's all in metaphor. And what is your metaphor of it to serve your paradigm?
Okay.
That's Gregory Bateson. That's the part where we have to look at things not spatially, okay, because that's kind of an illusion of just certain senses. The body has other senses. We're now discovering how birds can flock and migrate because of paracoupling in their eye and being able to see the shifts of the gravity fields. Okay, and they know where to fly.
Okay, well, what about the idea
Man has that too, by the way.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. So what about the idea that you actually you're following a trajectory that's an inner trajectory?
That's correct.
That-
There's something else going on
Yes.
here than the
That you
physical
s-
plane.
you
We've
set
missed
out
the whole point of
maybe
it.
in advance of coming here, so to speak.
I don't know. I don't know. You know, I really don't know. What I do know is
Are
it's
you a
time.
precog?
I can do anything I want to do, and so can you. In
And
fact,
have
I'm
you
going to
done that?
teach people how I
Sure.
taught SEALs to do that.
I understand
Yeah, okay,
that.
but yeah.
But you
Am I-
yourself have done this.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I won the contest. Gnostic News, Carl Wachowski, Llewellyn, 1965, brought Gene Dixon and Sybil Leek and all these people in, it's record history, and they invited me in to show how the SEALs do it.
Right.
And I won it by 3 orders of magnitude type. Top psychic there. I won that psychic tournament.
Okay,
It
well,
wasn't
what
about
about
me. It wasn't
Ingo
about me.
Swann?
What?
Beyond Ingo Swann?
Ingo Swann was at that time still in Chicago. I don't remember if Ingo Swann was there or not. I
Okay.
know that there were several others.
How about
Krippner.
Pat Price? Did you know Pat Price?
No, I don't know. I didn't know the people. I was a
Come
new.
on, Hal Pudoff. You went to
Hal
SRI.
Pudoff was older. I mean younger. He was younger. He was a
Uh-huh.
younger generation. We're talking 1985.
Hal Pudoff's younger than you?
I don't know how old Hal Pudoff is. I thought that
thought he was older than
well, he was at SRI in the 80s, not the 70s.
True.
I was doing the 70s.
I see.
That's what I meant by,
Okay.
I don't know how old he is. I worked with Tiller and Puharich is who I worked with.
Okay.
You know, and,
Yeah,
and-
Pluharich. You mentioned him a number of times.
well, Puharich was one of my teachers, and he was.
What about Uri Geller? Did you work with him?
Uri Geller was his protege, and
Uh-huh.
I was the one that busted Uri Geller at SRI. I caught him cheating,
Really?
and it broke Puharich, and Puharich was my teacher. He was like someone I didn't want to bust him because what had happened with what's his face was
Uri?
Uri Geller was that Geller couldn't do it just at any given moment.
Sure.
He could do it.
Yes.
We measured that. We confirmed something's going on here. When he started cheating for ladies and that kind of thing, where the ego was involved, and we caught him. Well, what took the whole data out the door? It was a baby with the bathwater, and that was the shame about that. At Kalugan, I was doing the same thing. I was moving her things, objects moving across the table. I'm a madman. I remember the great Randy did a challenge, because he didn't believe any of it, right? And what would be really interesting is to teach you this technique.
No, it's all right.
Teach you this technique,
Sure.
and then challenge his $1 million challenge where you can prove you can do paranormal, and that takes care of him, and that takes care of the $1 million challenge. You could probably talk him into it for the media publicity on it. The whole point would be, right? Randy's, has this $1 million challenge. I'd love to see you go after him. I think that would be because all you have to do is verify it with a team of scientists. Now, what that will really do, $1 million isn't important. It
No, it'll
makes
verify your
ESP.
method, right?
It makes ESP in the same category that hypnosis was when I was in the 70s. In the 70s, Gil Boyne didn't exist, and there was no certification programs and those kinds of things. And now it's turned for ESP. And ESP isn't ESP. You already know. It's just consciousness isn't the real deal. And you need to learn how to go to certain places. And you can do things that you can't do here. And this place, you can blah, 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 blah. Okay.
Okay, well, we're all magicians, okay?
That is correct.
And
That
so
is correct.
I think that we would definitely agree on that. Now, what I want to do here is back you up. I want you to tell me, we just had a conversation over lunch, okay?
Yeah, sure. Well, we'll do that.
And we did a little
You'll
preliminary.
cue me up and I'll just flow. You bet.
No, but I would like to just hear a little bit about your early childhood.
Oh.
I don't want you to go into detail.
Yeah.
I don't want you getting emotional
Yeah,
place or
I got
whatever.
you.
But
No, I got it. Yeah, no, I
I
got
want
it.
people
got
to
it.
understand how really amazing you are. And so we're going to go step by
I'm
step.
not.
You are, no, you are amazing.
Well,
I
then,
think-
if that's true, guess what?
All
You
of
can
humanity
easily, in
is-
this lifetime, be what I am if you want to do that.
Hey, we're both amazing.
I would want
How's
to do that. Eh?
You good? Okay, so we're all amazing. Humans are amazing.
It's
In my
not-
eyes,
yeah.
well, see, I see humanity as an amazing vehicle. Okay.
Rudolf Steiner says we're devolving. What do you think of that?
Well,
Really?
maybe
No,
maybe some of us are.
Well, that's why we have Joseph Campbell that says when you see the kingdom of the Father on earth, the apocalypse has already occurred. It's perpetual. And so when you talk about past lives, it's called the netter new, that moment of nexus of that, by the way, that neurotransmitter you didn't talk about was lysergic acid amide for Leary. He has alcohol and marijuana.
Okay, we're going to go to Leary.
I got you, but I thought I'd like
let's,
that.
yeah, thank you.
You're
but
welcome.
let's start. let's start at the very beginning. Okay.
I love it.
You were born in the Philippines.
No, I was born in
in
Everett,
Seattle.
Washington.
Okay, yeah.
I spent some time as a child in the Philippines, so I couldn't spell. I couldn't read English in 4th grade. I had a special teacher that then kept me after school and taught me how to read.
Okay.
In the 5th grade, in our local library, any book that had a little science fiction marking on it, I read it. Andre Norton, blah, 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 just consume that all. And then in 6th grade, I got a Chemcraft chemistry set. I was making pipe bombs when I was 12 years old. Just calling rocket ships.
Okay, but slow down. So your real father was not the man who raised you, right?
That is correct. But I don't see my father. My father's the one that gave me my humor.
Your real father or
No,
your father?
My father.
Okay.
Yeah, my father gave me my humor, gave me my sense of rigor, gave me my sense of.
And he was a Navy man.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but the man before, the one whose genes you have, so to speak, right?
You mean the Nelson line?
Yeah,
Lord Nelson?
yeah. From all
Kill them all, let God sort it out. That guy? Really?
Okay.
Oh no, really, that was earlier. Yeah.
Okay, but
Whoops.
was your mother's line Nelson, or was it your father's line?
My
that was
mother's.
Nelson?
My mother's.
Your
line.
mother's was
Yeah,
the
right.
Nelsons.
They came in on the Whitman trains.
Do you know what your father's line was?
No, I don't.
You
I've
don't?
never.
Okay.
I've
But
got
it was
what I got
certainly-
to
Okay, it was
meet what I
pretty
need.
Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah.
Right.
I've obviously got German. I've always got English. I've always
You got the blue eyes.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Aryan.
The
looks-
whole
Yeah.
thing. So because it matters, because I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. We're going to kind of go around. We're going to circle back around later.
I saw that.
Okay. Now,
Thank you.
can I broach the subject of what that like sort of someone would say sort of a crystallizing, catalyzing incident in which you were thrown in the oven as a very young child?
Missing time. Confabulation. Who knows what
You don't
really.
know.
I have memories.
Okay.
Are they real?
Did you have real
My
belly
memory
buttons?
seems to be pretty good.
Well, would
I
your
mean,
mo-
you know,
would your
but
mother,
fourth,
would
you
your
know.
mother remember this memory?
It happened, maybe not the way I remember it, as a 4-year-old.
But somehow you ended up in the oven and you got a lot of burns and you had
Well,
to
I'm
go
okay.
to the
I'm here.
hospital?
Yes, no, I don't know what happened.
Okay.
I know that then I remember when my mother introduced me to my
Excuse me.
Zenheit. Nachmal.
You made me make
There's
a
the
cold
German.
Marine.
Damn right.
Okay. But so you had that incident that may have affected you. It made you, so you were unique. You had a certain kind of
places in the brain, birthing. Yes, of course. That's Steve Gaskins and the farm and his spiritual midwifery and the way you're brought into the life and what happens, presets certain belief systems, assumed truths.
Okay, but in a certain way, it may not have been intentional like that, or maybe it was intentional, but there is an Illuminati torture element.
Illuminati is illuminated. It's just like they did in the movies. Illuminated. They were scientists they were the scientist part of the church.
Of the occult.
Okay, now, of the Church of Rome.
All right.
The illuminated ones were the scientists for the church. And what happened over the years of Weishaupt and all of the early stuff, confabulation of memory, it isn't what happened, it's what you do right now that makes the moment.
Right.
And it's not about the past. Right now.
Okay, but what I'm getting at here is that as a child, there's a certain catalyzing event that actually it's kind of like if you take a bottle or whatever, a container, and you squeeze it, and then what's inside starts to come out. Are you with me?
You mean that toothpaste where sometimes you have to push it real hard and squeeze
Whatever
it down?
you want to call it. That's kind of, this is what goes on.
Oh, that's
but
putting
okay,
that rod through your ear and...
From there, if we move forward,
right.
At that point, what would you say is like the next major incident that you remember? Because I'm very curious.
I had a knee go out when I was 15.
You had a what?
I had my knee break at age 15.
From what?
Football.
I see.
Right, I was an athlete.
You were?
Yeah, and I regrew it back.
Okay, you did?
Yes, I did. Then I had it happened another time, and then I had an artificial, and now I can Argentine tango. Yeah,
okay. All right, so at some point you kind of turned to science, right?
I was always science. I was always,
Uh-huh.
I was in science club when I was in 4th grade, even though I couldn't read English. I couldn't read.
So you had that
oh, yeah.
proclivity.
Yeah, 4-year-old. That's the 4-year-old that never becomes 7.
Why? What does that mean?
There's a mentat in terms of your wiring that changes from when you're age 4 to when you're age 7.
Right.
You go from eidetic imaging to a different way of brain storage.
Okay.
Okay, I never made that change.
You didn't?
But now I'm 68. Hey, a little 68-year-old brat that, by divine right, has a sense of where we should go.
Okay. All right. So you won the science fair. What was that? Were you 12?
In 1960, that was my junior year in high school, Mount Rainier High School. I won the Navy Cruiser Awards, Army Awards, blah, 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 awards, blah, blah, with a new meson field theory. And it included a new elementary particle called the muon that generated tachyons.
And
did
you say
from Japan.
You built a linear accelerator?
That was the second year.
Oh.
Then I applied that thing by creating a linear accelerator, hydrogen bubble chamber, and created particles going faster than the speed of light. And that was 1961.
And you were still in high school, right?
Right. And I went to New York, the
And?
National Science Fair.
Okay.
And I came in second. Guess who came in number 1? Robert Strom, Univac. And it was Robert Strom from New York. And so, there it is.
All right. So
I was always number 2. But yeah, truly. And that was in my high school years. Then I went to Washington State University. I started at the UW.
But you said they had their eye on you, so to speak. Your father was in the Navy. You had
Because I won all of these awards,
right.
I had the old man DuPont started orchestrating my education.
Did you know that for a fact?
No, not then. I know that now.
Yeah.
Going back, having access. The first inkling was in 1970 when I saw the 3 top secret documents. And the first one said that Mariner 1 flyby on Mars, discovered water on Mars using my protocols. And, and that's when I realized, and then the second top secret document, they detonated a nuclear warhead on the south pole of Mars and it didn't work.
Wow.
And I don't know. I just saw that a detonation had occurred as a form of terraforming oxygen, get a breath. And you know what being on Mars would be like right now without it terraformed?
Tell me.
Okay, if you're standing on the surface, your feet are at 72 degrees. The air is so thin that you're at a -5 at the top of your head. That's how quickly the temperature changes on the planet Mars if it was 72 degrees. Now, it's 100 below 0, actually, Fahrenheit. And so, but we are scaling it, so to give you some idea, okay? And what we have just discovered is, below to 6 inches, the ball of water, it's a new form of structured water. It's structured water is deuterium, tritium, for cold fusion processes. It's a new form of water that hasn't been described yet. Jerry Pollack was my lead when I worked anesthesiology at the UW, and is now professor emeritus in the world on structured waters. He's the one that does that beaker where the water runs across that long distance, and he does that.
Okay.
We understand things like how photosynthesis works. I mean, when a photon of light hits that structured water,
right,
what happens is, Richard Feynman said, likes like. And the positive atoms go up here, and the negative atoms go down here, and you have a battery. And that's photosynthesis, and that's how it works. And when you put certain kinds of structure to the water, because of deuterium, because of that, it's having a different isotope on it, then what happens is the structure of the water. Now, what makes water so important is that it's hydrogen and oxygen, number 1 and number 6 in the periodic chart. Helium has H2 is a stable molecule, but hydrogen and oxygen as water, as the smallest molecule, is a dimensional gate because of its dipole moment. And so it gives you the options of doing other things. That's why water is a really important resource.
And it is a dimensional gate.
It's mathematically is the way you would express that.
I see.
These are arbitrary things.
How about the water on Mars then? If normal water is a dimensional gate, what do you think the water on Mars is capable of?
There you go.
It would be nice for you to answer that question, because
I bet it would. There you go. I don't know.
Okay.
I can.
But I have this on Project Camelot, and we have witnesses who worked in above top secret, who have said that Mars. I have been told by someone who is risking his life to tell me this information.
Well, I don't know about that. I know that.
I know you don't know about it, but I'm going to tell you what I know.
Okay, cool.
And you can tell me what you think about what I told you.
Good luck.
Tell you
Yeah.
He said that the Mars that we see, that the military is dealing with, is actually fourth dimensional Mars.
Isn't that amazing?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. And now you talk a lot about, we're getting off the touch.
Not really.
Okay.
I already went there. I did the math,
Because you talk about the information
I
field
talk about
just
Matty
like
Pitkin
Pete
and Alex Cavarenan. Alex Cavarenan talks on structured waters. He's finished.
Right.
He's dead now. He was brilliant.
Okay.
Nobody's ever heard of him. Well, some people have, but nobody's heard of me. That's the deal. Say, you're rarefied.
I want to describe kind of your trajectory. So I'm going to go back, and we're going to come back to this.
You're going to stop that and try to get that same hair in the same place.
No, we're going to try to get, because I know people listening
want to follow.
What
this is? It's mudras from Chinese.
Yeah. Okay.
Kid.
I want to follow you.
Yeah, that's a Nordic word off in Tai Chi.
Because people want to understand
who
you are that's talking to them to some degree.
I see.
And it helps if you build a historical.
I'm just
sort of
a nerd
profile.
kid. I'm a scientist,
All right.
But
you're a lot more than that, because you ended up making this very strange, strange for certain scientists, kind of right turn into.
In the time Russia was doing it.
Yes,
You're really into it. Yugoslavia, for example, had some genius.
And I know you start your book out with the
Dr. Milan Riesel.
Soviet,
Dr. Milan Riesel, he was Czech, and he's still alive, and he's now at UC Davis.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You're welcome. I'd be happy to give you a phone number. And
he must be
the
very
great
old, though.
Randy.
Yes.
He's 83. And the great Randy, I'd like to take him down. I mean, not take him down, not so much that, no, because he's actually valid. To show him the world, not him, the world, that the possibilities,
Yes.
once that part is established, so it's not about money, it's not about taking someone down, it's not about that part of it, it's about zeitgeist moving forward. It's about get a grip. 400 years of monetary, it doesn't work. Time to move on, that's the word.
Yes.
Okay.
And really, I want people to understand that the reason this man is here, okay, at this time, is because they actually pushed him over the edge to such a degree that he ended up coming out, going from being a farmer. You called yourself a farmer. You kind of.
Well, I'm an agricultural consultant. I, for the last 40 years, have been farming.
Okay.
I mean, small farming, 40
Right.
acre fields.
And we're not going to go down that road yet.
Okay, sure.
So at
Okay.
the moment.
40 years. Imagine what I know.
Okay, but we're still with you in high school, okay?
Right.
So you've won all these science fairs and whatnot.
Yeah. Well,
and
they're
then-
just, I got to go on the Seawolf to Hawaii.
Okay.
No, I did. They
Seawolf.
flew me out. Yeah.
Okay.
The Seawolf was brand new. It was a nuclear-powered submarine out of
Yes.
San Diego.
Okay.
They flew us out of Sandpoint, Washington.
All right.
PBY. Yeah, it was so cool. And I got to go. They eat really good. Navy eats really good. I'd say, you have no idea. You come to these big fancy hotels and they eat better than the Navy. Trust me when I tell you that. I mean, they really do.
Okay.
That's the deal. When you're at war at sea, at least you're going to have some of your.
I see.
There you go.
That's interesting. Okay. Well, look. So at this point, how do you go from high school to college?
University of Washington, physics 121. They had 101 and 121. Physics 121 is for science majors and the 101 is for non-science. And the 121 was a hatchet course. The big pits of about 400, 450 people. But at the University of Washington. And the second quarter, it was quarters, there'd be from 480 to 320, and then there would be 140, and there would be, it's just, the rules. And it was like that. And they had the John Dance lecture series going on. And because of that, both Richard Feynman and the guy that invented covalent bonding,
You're
vitamin
asking me
C,
for the name?
yeah,
Pauling.
Linus
Yeah.
Pauling
All right.
taught 121, and Richard Feynman taught basic chemistry, 121,
I see.
101, 121,
Okay.
and then 122, 123, and
All
then
right.
you went to second year. And I did 4 years of that, intensity all the way up, and then went to the University of Delaware under R.B. Murray, Nobel Prize winner, and solid state physics.
Okay.
And he sent me to places like MIT, where I would do Nornand logic using fluidic devices and Corning systems,
Okay.
object-oriented software writing. The Actor 4.2 in your database is right now probably under Access is using 4.2 with ACT on top of it or something.
Okay, but what? So at this point, you're moving through time. What
I know
exactly?
I am. Isn't it cool?
So come on. At some point, your path, you get into kind of working for the military, though.
I've always been working for the military. In my undergraduate year at Pullman, I did an undergraduate thesis, which means I have a BS in physics in physics, not philosophy of physics, because I did an undergraduate thesis. What I built was a plasma jet that now Giannini uses in the space program to make space tiles. And I created a flame 60 times hotter than the surface of the sun. And they were afraid I was going to blow up the campus. It was really cool. Just one of those.
So okay, so you worked for the military? What part of the military? Are you at liberty to tell me?
Well,
Were you Navy? Were you
Navy intelligence.
Were you ever
It's
at Lawrence Livermore at Labs?
Yes.
Did you work for Teller at all?
No, Bill worked. Well, I'm not going to say he worked for me. He worked for Puharich, but I was MRU.
Okay, what
That
is
means
MRE?
I'm under Mankind Research Unlimited. I was Northwest Regional Director for Dr. Carl Schleicher.
Oh.
You don't know him?
Well, I know the name, but
Yeah, I'll
what-
bet.
what-
Yeah, I was Northwest Regional Director. Bill Franklin was Midwest Director. He's out of Kent State, and he did all of the work at University of Chicago. If anything weird happened on the West Coast, it was mine to try to figure out what's going on. Sometimes I was not necessarily a lead. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
They had people in anthropology or something, Antarctica,
Okay,
whatever,
but
something
they had
like
a
that, where
problem.
we would be part of the team, but not the lead of it.
I understand, but if they had a problem, you actually told me, and people can appreciate this because the military is, or aspects of the military, it's kind of unique in allowing you to be sort of this person who kind of went in between the cracks. You didn't follow.
They
you said
wanted
you weren't
me. It was back in the
following
70s. Yeah, back in the 70s, it was about blue sky. We didn't know where it was going to go.
Right.
It was in the 80s that it all changed into application.
Okay.
Leon Sideroff has a thing called the Emergent Mind Bulletin, and she talks about remote viewing and the dangers of it over astral projection.
Right.
You know, we're scientists. We deal with certain kinds of things like radiation, like plutonium. Reactor 4. You know, the whole thing's nuts. And if people don't start to, there's nobody, I don't know what to do about the politics. I don't understand politics. I don't understand that thing.
Okay.
But even Ralph Nader isn't talking about Fukushima. What the?
Yeah.
I mean, it's already, today, just from leaking water in it, the bay is 287 times more radiation. And right now, chatter is that, and it looks like it's all good to go, there are 2 major islands up in the Kamchatka Sea that Japan is buying from Russia. And how do you evacuate 40 million people out of the prefect? It doesn't, how do you do that?
Well, I've heard that some of them are going to come to
In
Australia,
our lifetime,
and some
in
of
our
them are going to
lifetime.
China, and some are going to U.S.
In our lifetime, I think Japan will no longer exist as a continent. It's a terrible shame. The history and richness
Yes.
of their culture is, it's like Aztec, and it's happening right now with global weather changes.
Right.
And that's what we're about, the urban survival skills and how
Yes.
to avoid a zombie. Well, you
Okay,
know.
well, but speaking of that, we're talking about.
I did you, I'm back, didn't I?
No, it's just one of our cameramen. Anyway, it's making me laugh here. But the bottom line here is, what you were. We're still back in the military. You're working for the military.
By
In a
the way,
sense.
I just a little Kevin in here. The people that are actually going to make the change are 6 years old or younger. It will be no one else that actually causes the changes. It'll start at 6 years and younger. They're the ones that are going to do it.
Okay, well, we might have a little difference.
I'm on
in
record of
there.
saying it.
It's
a fact.
I'm sure they may have to implement.
They're the ones that are
changes.
going to take over the food thing.
Uh-huh.
Or they're already doing it. There's a girl that was 13 and a half 2 years ago that went to the United Nations, addressed the United Nations,
Yes.
and said, when I was your age, when you were my age, you didn't have to worry about the food you ate. You didn't have to worry about, the air you breathe.
Right.
What have they done to us?
Sure.
Well, that's what I'm about.
Okay. I appreciate
It's not
that.
about me. It's about.
I know, but we're telling your story right now. So to get
All
back
right,
to
all right,
this
all right.
story
You
here,
can throw that away. But
you were working for the military from some aspect of
Well,
the military for how long,
started
and then
innocuously.
what did you
It
do?
started innocuously.
Okay.
I was in anesthesia. Started at Boeing Company, actually.
Okay, so you're at Boeing.
I'm at Boeing. I come
Yes.
out of graduate school. I start to work at Boeing, and there are several projects going on. There was out of MASD is where I was starting, and I worked in. I'm going to have to remember things. Art Pilgrim was doing Lunar Base Alpha 1 as a hydroponic system that later became New Galley Gardens and some other things. But originally, they were doing studies of growing pot on the moon. There's an article about that, truly. They were doing the original studies of about 6 different plants in space, and to understand how the different light bands, at that time, we didn't know about cannabinoids. We didn't know about, we weren't into the herb chemistry on that level yet. We were just starting that part of it. Now we've got, toity-toit, there it is. But, well, Aaron Stevens is Jacobs. Aaron Jacobs runs the marijuana museum in Amsterdam, and his wife is the Sensi Seed Bank. And we talk about heirloom seed and what's going on now in the world with Microsoft, and it doesn't make any sense what they're doing. It's like,
well, I might have a few
I'm sure you do. I bet you do.
Okay, but let's go down this trajectory. At some point, you said you were called in to solve problems.
Yeah, if they couldn't figure it out, they would bring in the weird balls. They would try to make some sense of it. Mostly we didn't. Mostly it was like catching flies. I've seen things that I have no idea what they mean. I mean,
can you give us an example?
Okay, a Sherpa, white feather shaman walking up Mount Rainier barefoot. Jack Schwartz being able to take a stick through his arm and not bleed, no pain.
Okay.
How does that work? Well, I figured out some of that. Some of it I figured out, mostly not. The shaman, it turns out the red feather shaman that walks on coals up in Mount Vernon, okay, we found a spot on the back of the back that is radiating heat. It's a form of electrophoresis. It's superconductivity through the skin. It's a headspace, again dealing with an altered state of consciousness, and you can do something you can't do here.
Right.
That's what it's about.
Okay.
And that part...
But how did you make this transition? Because you were a physicist, a scientist, and you went into the area of consciousness. At what point in your trajectory did you make that sort of shift? Do you know?
There are a number of cathartic points, of course.
Okay.
Theosophical Society and discovering
all right,
Freud.
so you got into okay, how did you do that though? How did you
I
get
went
into
to the
magic?
Theosophical Society, they have open forum. And sitting here talking old ladies talking about Ledbetter and Eastern tradition and Annie Besant smoking her cigarettes.
And your mother was a psychic, right? You also left that out.
Yes, I left a lot of things out. Yes,
Okay.
My mother and grandmother were so well known working with the Seattle Police Department that they did a TV series called One Step Beyond.
Okay.
Right, and it was about things that happened to them, but the way the series did it, it was different people and different, they did it that way. This was at the same time the Twilight Zone was on. It was called One Step Beyond.
Okay.
And that's my mother and grandmother.
All right, so you had a background, sort of. You grew up with your mother. She had this ability. You must have had a similar ability growing up.
No, that's Rind in 1950 when I'm a young kid.
Yeah. They
came through with the Foundation for the Study of Man, and they tested my sister and I.
And what happened?
They thought I was a fourth stage telepath, whatever that is.
I see.
I don't have a clue what that means. I was a young kid. I played with it a little bit. You could feel like something's watching you, and it's aliens, This is in the 60s,
Yes.
Early 60s,
Sure.
late 50s.
Well, come on, you must have watched Spielberg movies and.
Oh, that's much later. I was out duty. I hate time.
All right. We're moving too far along. Okay, so get back to where you are as far as you're working for the Navy. You're making a transition.
It's Navy intelligence.
Navy intelligence.
Navy intelligence is different than Navy in that we're basically Jesuits for the Church of DuPont. He reported to Rockefeller. DuPont was mostly interested in the technology. That's what Navy did. We did it first, and then there would be a trickle down to Army or whatever, but it was always Navy that had the toys.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
and you know that the Stargate, that whole, it was called, I'm talking about the this came later. I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about remote viewing, and I asked
Yeah,
you,
that's
you
in
didn't
the
know
80s.
Smugglemine. Okay.
We're doing something
We're
much
talking-
weirder.
what-
In the 70s.
Are we in the 60s or 70s?
We're late 60s and early 70s. Late
Okay.
60s, like 67, 68. That's when Yugoslavia
Okay,
was.
Jim Morrison, The Doors. We're talking
Did he
Tavistock.
die? Thomas Lytle. Secret and Suppressed. Feral Press. Can't get a kidder.
You have heard of Peter Lavenda?
Yeah, Tom Lytle was my best friend. And psychedelic essays and monographs. He died. He died in Florida, just 2 years ago. And Neil Goldsmith, you don't know Neil Goldsmith?
Well,
The
tell
New
me
York
who is-
Poetry Science Talks and Omni Magazine.
What about Allen Ginsberg?
Yes.
You know,
Alan Watts.
How about
There
the?
you go. I studied with
yeah,
Alan
you
Watts.
did?
Yes. And
For how long?
I taught with him at Cold Mountain Institute
Oh, you
before he
did?
died.
I see.
Okay, I was at Evergreen,
Yeah.
and he wanted a second kind of Buddhism, which is minus Chinese. And
Yeah.
actually, I'm not a Buddhist. I'm not. I'm a magician. I'm like different, different.
I get that.
Yeah.
Okay. But again, we're still trying to find that area where you kind of moved out of sort of science and got into the mind.
Meta means beyond.
All right.
Metaphysics is
Okay.
beyond physics.
Fine.
Worldview, you come down into.
Were you disenchanted? Did you find a limitation in physics? I mean, what?
Well,
drove
it's
you?
emotions. It's something more going on here. Let's figure what that's about. What about those inner space things? Let's take a look around.
Okay,
What
but
can
did you meet Leary?
Yeah, I've met Timothy Leary.
I know you
Yeah,
have,
yeah,
but was he the catalyst? I'm looking.
He's
He worked for John
only
Lilly.
one. The first catalyst was the woman in 4th grade that kept me after school and made me learn how to read. I did Freddie the Pig and Mrs. Pickle Goes to Mars.
Why was that?
That's how I started reading.
Okay.
Gotcha. And from there, really.
Okay. But come on. I'm trying to figure out. You're in your 20s. Let's say you're in your 20s. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're working for the military, and you're doing these jobs, and you're reaching. You say you get given a puzzle or whatever, a problem to solve because they can't
I'm in
solve
school.
it. You're in school.
Yeah,
Okay, you're in
when
school. But then,
20.
you graduate, right? And you go
Yeah, I
for
graduated,
Boeing,
and then
for
I went to
Boeing.
graduate school. I went to work at Instrument Products Division with DuPont in Newark, Delaware, and that's where I went.
But isn't DuPont paint? Come on, what are they dealing with?
The experimental research station in Philadelphia had the most PhDs in the world in one spot.
What
Right
were
there.
they trying to do?
Okay, where I came up with the holographic universe, I was walking down the hall and I looked in, and here's Gabor, whatever way you care to pronounce it, Gabor, and he's creating a three-dimensional television, 1967, three-dimensional color television. Where is that? What happened to that? I saw it in 1967, and why I wrote the holographic concept of reality. That because I saw that and then realized what a hologram really is. At Evergreen, I wrote a movie. We were in the basement, the science people. They had a photography thing that won Best Picture of the Year, Cannes, called Eat the Sun. It was about a new religion based on biofeedback.
Okay.
And I have been writing this thing on using feedback systems so you can change consciousness.
Uh-huh.
The idea of you're hallucinating if you're so out of shape. There's some aliens that think, how could we exist as a life form when the difference between being psychotic and normal is measured in micrograms? How does that work? Really, we're talking about some subtleties here. No.
Okay, but at this point, you're working for DuPont. When do you actually make the jump from DuPont into?
Okay, when I worked with DuPont, they sent me to graduate school. I finished graduate school and I came to work at Boeing. When Boeing had 50,000, scientists hit the street all at one time because of the losing of the B-1, I had a job at Boeing still, and I gave it to my lead. He was a grade 14, way more years into it, so he took my job and I started working at the UW, anesthesiology.
What's the UW?
University of Washington, Department of Medicine, School of Anesthesiology.
Okay, but why
Fourth
did you do?
floor.
Okay, what were you doing? What anesthesia? What was that?
The outer or the inner? I had an outer show. I was creating an aortic catheter.
Okay.
You know, the single most important measurement in medicine.
Okay.
It goes in through the femoral artery, goes up into the aorta, and measures instantaneous cardiac output.
Okay. What
That's
were you
the
doing?
bottom line.
What's the inner? What was the inner job? What were you doing?
Brilliant photography, blah, 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 blah,
So
blah.
you were photographing
Talking
auras.
with plants,
Okay, and you were doing experiments with that?
Yeah, video feedback. I had, at the UW, I had a buchla. So I could,
You had a what?
A buchla. Like
What's
an
that?
emu. Synthesizer. I could do all kinds of frequency bands. I could do any band I wanted. So I was working like with, they had laboratories where you had toys. So you
Yes.
could really do cutting edge. And I had toys. And I learned audio and video feedback systems at the University of Washington. They had security clearances into the walls and basements, just like Chicago did. Secret. You had to go in with a badge.
But you got in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
I had crystals grown there.
You did?
For the aortic
Did you
catheter.
find what other uses crystals have?
Solid state physics. Let me tell you, I was going to write magical and ritual use of gemstones, and I never did. You know why?
No.
There would be 14 chapters, each
So?
one for a Bravus lattice. That's
What does that mean?
Pythagoras.
Oh.
Yeah, Pythagoras says there's 14 ways matter folds in or out of itself. They're called Bravus lattices. It's a mathematical thing. It has to do with octaves and matter.
Okay, so
Right.
but I still don't get why you didn't write the book. Why didn't you write a book? You said you were going to write a book.
I've written more books than anybody in the world. Wait till you see what I'm going to do this year alone. You have no idea. Here it comes. You don't even know this. With the Modern Alchemist,
All right.
I have Pantheon, Archetypal Gods in Daily Living. Oh, gee whiz, that's 28 chapters. And then I have 12 more volumes called The Holistic Kabbalah. That's online also. And it's breaking
You know
down.
the Kabbalah isn't complete, though.
What's that?
It's not complete.
Well, are you talking about Doth and the missing Sephiron in the middle of the abyss? I got a chapter on that one too. And you're talking about the male and female going up. We go to God. The two paths are the hermit and the lovers. And what crosses them is humor. Zap.
Okay. Look, at a certain point, you ended up meeting Timothy Leary and going and working for John C. Lilly. When were you? Because weren't you younger? when you were with Lilly?
Lily's
Tell me
lab.
about
Well,
that.
that's Carl Sagan.
I know.
Carl Sagan wanted to know if the dolphin language, the clicks and whistles, was a form. They wanted to know is that a language?
Uh-huh.
And I had this thing for languages. I do. I just do.
You had a natural proclivity for languages, and so
Mathematics, yeah.
And when was this? Wasn't this when you were young?
No. Let's see.
You told me it was like you were in high school.
No, not in high school.
You were 20s.
I trying to think. It was more like 68, 1968.
I know, but so you
69.
were.
Might have been 69.
So
It might have been 69.
Were you in your 20s?
Yeah, I was working for Boeing. I was already out of
Okay.
graduate school.
All right. And so
I was
you went
graduate. I
down
was in my 430s.
You went down and you
Yeah.
were a test subject to do what?
No, they brought me into his labs, and for about 10 days I took recordings trying to understand from the frequency bands what these different movements were. And I discovered that the format of it, and the way they did what they're, it's a form of Clifford algebra, dimensional math. They're like 10 times more aware than Hebrew in the mother languages in encoding of information. They're a more highly evolved mammal than man is.
Did you talk to Stan Tenen about this?
I did mention to Stan, when I met him, I mentioned
And
that.
how did he react?
They have a dolphin program there on Hawaii, but the one I did was in Key Largo. I did Dolphins Plus with Tom Lytle. And Tom, I was with Cosmo. I was 4 hours in the tanks with the dolphin, and the trainer had the dolphins coming up to me, and I grabbed on each fin and they pulled me through the water, right? The trainer didn't know this arm wasn't real. And that dolphin did. That was Cosmo. And he pulled me differently than the other one, so I was able to be pulled through the water. He was lighter on my thing in the joint.
I know, but did you communicate with these dolphins telepathically? How did you communicate?
I don't know how you do that. It's in their eye. Starshine. It's like when you
What do you
do
mean by
eyeball to eyeball and you all of a sudden it happened.
Yeah.
That's the soul part. The dolphin are there. I can't explain how to, what happened with my dolphin. When I met the dolphin, I felt like I was in presence of a real alien, and so much more to give to me. Some of those mammals they're open. They can leave anytime they want to. They dolphins, but I'm not sure Hawaii does that. I don't know what they do. I don't know anything about the Hawaiian one.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You mean they can swim, they can escape.
They can leave at any time they want to leave.
Right.
In other words,
Sure.
they're there because they want to be there, not
want to share.
Yeah, right. They get them usually from shark or something that hit them, and they rehab it. And then the dolphin can leave if it wants to. And a lot of times they don't. But then neither do kids leave McDonald's. So we got to be really careful what we're doing here. I thought I'd play with you on that one. That's the other part of all of those equations, is that we don't have a clue. And what we do, a wolf, timber wolf, is closer to spirit than man is. What a wolf does is not wrong. There's nothing it does that's wrong, because it's about instinct. Okay, that's the lower brain. The gut, it's convoluted, has neurotransmitters, there's a lot of thinking from there. There's metaphors going on in the body, just heart centers and other places. Call it triple warmer. I haven't figured out what a triple warmer is yet, but I did the early acupuncture studies at the University of Washington under John Benica. There were a group of scientists that were studying anesthesiology. They were studying the Barefoot Doctor's Manual. Wanted to see, and we brought Dr. Chu, who was at that time China's leading acupuncturist, into the laboratory. And because I was working upstairs, I got infectious hepatitis working with blood. I built a jig. I was doing sonic studies, through blood, attenuation studies.
I see.
What crystal do we use on the catheter? You knew blood, for example, is at 10 megahertz. That was already done. But aortic walls, we needed a pulse echo thing going on. And what frequency then? And I was doing that study.
I see.
And I figured it out. There it is. Boom. And
okay, but
I lost my thought.
I know, but you were working on crystals and going into
crystals are metaphors, just like space-time is.
Okay.
It's about the geometry of it.
Yes.
And when you use that geometry in your mind's eye, that's what I would have been in the ritual use of gemstones. Magical and ritual use of stones would be, the Bravas lattices, Pythagoras. That's how I would write the book. In terms of what I know about magic. It's about, that all comes, by the way, the concepts of that, Ezekiel's vision and the throne chariot of God. That's where Stan Tenen and all those people, trying to see the supercode inside the Kabbalah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's crazy stuff. Well, the word.
But I still want to get back to the when you were working with dolphins. They used you. Why did they use you specifically?
Who?
You.
I never figured that out. I never figured that out.
You don't know?
No.
So
I'm a real scientist. I'm like a real scientist.
So you're a scientist and a psychic. Is it 4-stage psychic? Or
no, I'm not Molnar. I want to believe. I don't have Robert Anton Wilson's and his. I've got. I didn't say it. See how I am? I got that though.
Yeah. Okay, but you're still not answering the question. I want to understand. John C. Lilly. You
Oh,
wrote, you,
I
you
was
said
there
you
10
wrote
days,
the
and
dolphin
what I did
language.
was I recorded the languages of the dolphins.
Yes.
That's what I did. I just
You recorded it.
Yeah, they're talking to each other. And they're doing
So,
all
but
kinds
anybody
of-
could record it. They don't need you to.
Well, but they can't figure out
You
what the
translate.
code, in terms of, and what
And
I
you
would do
translate.
is digitize certain things. This is before computers, we had a wang, before this.
I understand.
Okay, good. And so, in fact, I didn't even get about computers. That was one of the areas I missed. When Robert Strum beat me, he beat, at UNIVAC. When I went to Nationals, New York.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't tell you that. I thought I told you about New York, and I always was number 2.
Okay.
I was never the best. I never, like when I went to New York and they had the National Science Fairs, what happened was I came in number 2. I didn't come number 1. The guy that beat me had UNIVAC, had the first computer. They were using relays. I'd never seen anything like that. I didn't know about the difference machine then. Hadn't read Gibson, hadn't done, all of those.
Oh, yeah?
Well, I hadn't done any of that.
Did you read Gibson?
Oh, yeah, of course. You see, Von Bodie was a personal friend of mine. And
Okay, let's talk about John Bohm. Is that it?
John Bohm, his implicate order, the concept of the implicate order.
But you were there before him, right? Is that what you were
Right,
doing?
we were doing holograph. We were suggesting biological processes. We were the first to suggest that the whole thing had to do with biological processes, not universe. We started looking at the body, what the body really is and what it isn't. The difference came out of Kirlian photography. When we realized Kirlian photography wasn't real, what we had discovered was bioluminescence and the concepts of what bioluminescence was really about. That was what I'd done my graduate work in.